I want to share with you some of the random healing stories I have from the entire Bloom Spa mud line. Again, I've been using this mud since I was probably 23. I'm 51 now. So many kind of amazing ways other than just using it. I mean, the mud is obviously great for circulation, detoxification, healing the skin, youthing the skin, toning the skin, reducing aches and pains, sports-related injuries, such as muscular rheumatism, joint issues, arthritis, neuralgias, neuropathies, eczema, and relaxation. The mud just does so many wonderful things. So many years ago, my dad just randomly had this skin issue. He didn't know what it was. His skin just started peeling. He started losing all of his hair. My dad's kind of a burly, hairy guy and had a lot of really, even though he kind of looks like Santa, he had a lot of brown hair all over the rest of his body. Like, think Robin Williams, right? And so he got very ill. His joints were aching and throbbing. He had chills, but yet was sweating and clammy. He went to his regular doctor. He went to a dermatologist. The dermatologist sent him to a specialist. They took samples of his skin, which was really painful because in essence, they take your raw open wound of his skin and they just slough it off with the glass tray for the microscope and then put another tray on top of it and look at it under the microscope. No one could figure out what was wrong, still to this day, with my dad. Well, I said, Dad, he tried lotions, he tried creams, all from the dermatologist. He tried topical stuff that he found in the grocery store. Nothing was working, and he was very ill. He kept the hair on his head and his face, but all his hair fell out everywhere else. It was the weirdest thing. It was like my dad had put Nair all over his body, and it was so odd. But what was so sad was that he felt so bad, and he was trying to work and take care of all of us, and no one could fix him. And I said, well, Dad, what about the mud? And sometimes it's hard for us ladies to get you dudes in these detox mud baths. So sometimes I tell the ladies, like when the NFL's on, like maybe you can get your dude in a foot soak while he's watching the game. At least that's helping some detoxification. Or if you're older and it's not safe for you to get down into a bathtub, or you don't have a bathtub, foot soaks, hand soaks are wonderful. Well, I started putting him in the mud, and he was using several variations of the mud. And then magically, he started to heal. When he went back to the dermatologist, they're like, oh my gosh, what's helping you? And he said, well, I've not been using anything you've given me. My daughter has been giving me this mud, and it's healing me. And still to this day, the doctors were like, we have no idea how and why that's healing you. My guess, and again, I'm not a doctor and I don't prescribe, is all the phytonutrients, all of the millions of years old of decomposed organic matter, the mineral matter that has broken down since the days of the dinosaurs is in this mud. We can't get this nutritionally by anything alive now. And that had to have been what helped him. And then the weirdest thing happened. His hair all grew back in, but it grew back in brown. At the time, my mom was like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm cheating on your dad with your dad, because instead of him looking like Santa, he kind of had this dark brown hair everywhere, even on his head, his face. It was bizarre. Many years later, it went back to the Santa, hair that we know and love about my dad today. But that was a major healing that I was not expecting with my dad. I just recently had anterior double hip replacements. There is no way without this mud that I would have been able to sustain and dance the 6-7 days a week for years. And then I danced in studios that didn't even have a proper floor. So it really broke me down more and more, that I ended up having a labral tear. And this mud really helped spackle me together to get me from day 1 to day 2. Also, if you're a sun worshiper and you have a lot of issues with spots on your skin, I love the sun. I'm out in it. I do use protection. I do wear protective clothing, but then a lot of times I am really in my bikini in the sun, swimming with the dolphins and the manatees, aka my chubby mermaids. And so what I notice is I get more of the sunspots on my body in the summer. But as I soak in the mud through the winter, and I'll even take a mud bath in the summer, if you have sunburn and you take a cool mud bath, or if you've got poison ivy, poison oak, or horrific bug bites, take a mud bath, and it doesn't have to be hot if it's in the middle of the summertime and you're already overheated, to allow it to heal those skin conditions more quickly. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe. This is my experience using the mud. I used to have a pot-bellied pig named Harley the Hog. And pigs are like elephants. I used to train elephants and lions and tigers too. So I've lived many lives. And oftentimes elephants and pigs kind of abscess. They'll get a wound or a bite, and before you know it, they've got this big, nasty, infected abscess. And so she had an abscess like literally about this round on her neck, and it was nasty. And, not to be all Dr. Pimple Popper, but I popped the abscess and it was like deep, nasty green infection, and it was so thick. I got all of that gently out of there, and it was very painful for her. She did a really good job sitting still because clearly she wanted it out. Once I got it out, once I cleansed the wound, I took that mud and I packed it in her wound, and it really helped her heal. One last story. My mother, prior to death, fell and became a quadriplegic. And, we had health aides coming in. My dad was just amazing in being able to take care of her. We were able to transfer her in and out of the shower. But they would give a lot of, baths in the bed, sponge baths, if you will. And what I noticed was her feet were so crusted and turning black and blue, and her hands were getting that way too. She was getting a lot of tetany, plus she had the tetany because she was paralyzed. So she could move her upper body to some extent, but her hands were very tetanied and deformed. And what I did is I went in and I would take buckets. I got cheap buckets at the dollar store, one for each foot and one for each hand. And I would set her by the end tables, and I would put her feet and her hands in the mud with the water. And then I would put the Dead Sea salt from the Bloom Spa, Dead Sea salt, in with it. I would make her soak in that. And then afterwards, all that junk just came off. And within like 3 days, almost a year's worth, really maybe 8 or 9 months worth of all this crusty stuff that they acted like they could never remove, this was just going to be her new normal, came off, and her skin came back. She started losing all of her hair because of the bed sores from having her head against the pillow. I packed it with the mud, used the mud. We have different lotions. All the skincare that you are buying through Bloom is incredible. Some of it is also infused with the mud, and I used those kinds of products. And the nursing staff was like, "Oh my God, Erica, what did you do? How did you do this?" And I said, "I'm using all my organic soaps, my organic oils, and I mostly use this mud." So those are just some amazing stories that I have experienced, or amazing healings that I've experienced, stories to share with you of how profound this mud has been in my life. I don't go anywhere without it. I always have it on hand because you never know when you're going to get that uh-oh feeling. And if you can get a hold of a cold or a flu right when that happens and get a good detox bath in, get some good fluids and lemon water going in, get some good smoothies, some good super greens in, it's just amazing. And what I love about all this is it comes literally direct from God. It's got no fillers, no toxins. It's just what the good Lord gave us, literally, to live a healthy, well life. And blessings for a healthy, well 2025. Namaste.